How you folks doing? Chris Courtney here. Just getting things going with the pre-show here. It's so good to be back with you on a middle of the week feedback loop. Um, Good times ahead of us here. We've got a lot to cover. I mean, a lot. This may be one of the busiest feedback loops we've had in a long time. Um, there's going to be some things that we take a look at that I'm not going to dive into too much detail on, mainly because um, the subject matter is sensitive, for lack of a better term. At least in this moment in time, it's sensitive. It's not bad. Don't worry about that. Don't. I'm not gonna out anybody or do anything like that. But I definitely want to take a peek at a couple of things. We're also going to look at. We've got some portfolio work to look at. We've got actually. So Luigi and Charlie are in here with portfolio work. Melanie and Chelsea are in here with interview-esque type things. It seems like we've got another piece in here as well. No, I think I'm going to limit it. I think we're going to limit this to Chelsea, Melanie, Luigi, and Charlie this morning. But there's multiple facets to talk about. Some of this is going to go a bit off the cuff, meaning that there's no like one-to-one. I can't point you to something in the curriculum to kind of help you along. But that said, CouchBot's fired. So what that means is it's time to start. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It is time for the feedback loop. So good to have you back. We've got a busy slate this morning. We've got Luigi, we've got Chelsea, we've got Melanie, we've got Charlie. The hits keep on coming. It is so good to see people getting in their rhythm. That just, coming out of a holiday weekend, it's always curious how much time it's going to take people to find their rhythm. But everybody seems to be in their midsummer stride. You got your beach bods on, even though we can't go to the beach. But you're primed. You're ready to go, and that's good. That's good for me. That's good for you, because you don't know what's around the corner heading into the hiring season. Will it be a hiring season? The classic hiring season is September, October. That's always when we see a big surge in hiring. Will it happen this year? Is this year, because of COVID, going to be the same as the years prior? Because the hiring season that we typically get is January, February, March, and April. And then you're down from May through the summer months, and then you're back up again once you get into the fall. Is it going to happen that way? Are we going to get an early hiring spike because of the compression lost from March and April and all the layoffs and everybody kind of getting back to work? Or is it going to stretch out? We just don't know. But I can guarantee you that if your work is not in a position to take action, it won't matter, because you won't be taking part in it anyway. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to jump in and get this underway. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is Charlie is reworking his case study for design reads. Now, this is the first time I've taken a look at design reads as Charlie has laid it out. I will point out that Charlie's got a portfolio, and we're going to be actively working on it. I want to go and take a peek at this for comparison's sake. First of all, like the big image, it's just too big. As we come in, here's design reads. This bit is all over the place. Charlie knows that. Nothing I'm saying there is new. Problem solution. We've got to work on some typography here. Get this, competitive analysis. That's all great, good, fine. But it gives you a sense of where he's starting. Okay, let's go back over here to see where he's at right now, because where he's at right now is far more important to me than where he was at just a few days ago. So let's jump in here. Okay, so the first thing we haven't done is we haven't adjusted this. I really believe that this, we need to think about this in terms of can we show the interface? Right now we're kind of showing an illustration that's kind of at an angle. If you've followed along here at all, you know that I'm far more interested in seeing the actual design that you've done, and you know, from the looks at it, if I turn my head and look at it, I kind of get a sense that this might not be too bad, but then again, I don't know, because it's like we've turned it and twisted and whatnot. So Charlie, we'll work on this initial illustration here. From here, like this design, I'm gonna give this a no. Like, we want to stay away from this altogether in its current form. There's no reason that we should be designing it like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this to my draft so that I can work on it. And we're going to come over here in the duplicated version, because I gotta draw on this for a second. Okay. Now this right now you've copied it over, and I think I get what you've done. Okay, so this is not. This is just okay. So page 1. So you got page 1 here. This is just you going through and copying the elements. It looks like. Okay, that's great. There's a lot of different ways that you could have copied this, and that's fine. The first thing that I want to do is I want to encourage us to look at this in terms of a grid. Okay, let's get a grid onto this. A grid's never going to go all the way to the edge. Okay, we're always going to have some margin on that, and this is 1440. Okay, the width of this is the standard. It's considered the standard width for a web page if it was on a Macintosh or any high resolution screen. Okay, I want my grid here to have a margin of 120 to each side. Okay, 120 to each side says that my width on the actual content is going to be around 1200. Okay, so it's 120 minus 120 times 2, that's 240 minus 1440 minus 240, that gets you to the 1200. Okay, I would say that 1200 should stand. So if this goes bigger, you're not stretching. You're going to stick with that 1200 as your main grid. From here, what we begin to see is most of this fits fine. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with the way it's fitting right now, but immediately we should look at this and go, okay, there's something better that we can do right here, just to start. What I'm going to suggest that you do is, we're looking at this design roles, software, tasks. Tasks is really long. Tasks are really long by comparison. This could be it could be 3 columns. It could be 2 columns, depending on how you design this. I would really encourage you to look at this as potentially a 2-column design. 1, 2, and consider dropping these little icons. Yeah, I don't necessarily know that they add a lot to the mix here. Also, consider dropping this down in the mix. Let's get problem, let's get solution in here, and really in the grand scheme of things, if we're over here and we're just typing in like what these sections are, we've got intro. Okay, and I'm gonna blow this up so we can see it. Intro. So we've got intro, we've got about, we've got problem, solution. And then what we don't have really is, as it currently stands, what we're missing is any sort of learned. Okay? You know, in what I learned. When you're working on these early projects, when you're just getting your design career off the ground, I need to know what you learned in working on this thing. This intro section is far more important to me than anything that follows. If you've read through the case study material that I've released before, you know that my perspective on this is there's a large group of people that scans the top of these documents and they determine right away whether you are worth investing more time in reviewing your work. If this top of the document doesn't sell me on your potential, I don't even begin to look at the rest of this. Okay? So you've got to nail this part. Okay? Now once you've nailed this top part, then we can begin to focus on the rest of this that follows. But overall, I think that, you know, this right here is the missing piece. I'm going to put that in bright red so that we see it. I'm going to put it in black. So really, you know, the way I see this is, you know, your intro, what the problem was, how you solved it, what you did, and then what you learned. That should be that, and frankly a better presentation of the work that you've done up top. You know, once we get that out of the way, I think that this will begin to sing. You know, having a margin set up, and overall I think you have that. It's just that this intro, like what you did, you know, your role and whatnot, it's destroying my desire to look any further past that. Okay, so we got to fix that. The other thing to look at is, you know, when we say discovery, what we're really saying is now you're going to begin looking at, I'm going to talk to you about my process. Okay? So, you know, just like you have an intro, I think you should have a process intro, which is just a paragraph. It's just a paragraph to say, okay, now I'm going to take you through this. This moves. This project I focused on research and interface implementation, and then I did testing. Like, you want to give them a sense of what they're going to find below, because when you jump in, you say discovery. Like, what if they really don't know what you're talking about? It's jarring. It's like, what's happening? Where are we going? And then you can get into how this, you know, how you actually worked through this, because you did, you know, competitive analysis, user research, survey results, user persona, storyboard. Like right now, it's disjointed. You need some sort of explanation to guide your user through this, and right now you don't have it. The other thing I would consider doing for this is I would consider trying to utilize some sort of side saddle presentation method to allow yourself the ability to use maybe the labels to the left and content to the right, so that you're not stretching this all the way across. And then when you get down to something like, you know, user persona, like right now I see user persona, like singular. I'd like to see at least a couple, and, you know, I don't want you to go back in time and reinvent the wheel, but if you had two, what I would be doing is I would be doing something like this and going down. Having one, you know, you're going to be kind of stuck, but, you know, in having one, the way that I would design this, and I'll just copy this down, I'll draw this back up, is I would say, okay, user persona, great, it's the one, but I would draw this down. I'd probably, you know, use a little mugshot, you know, design this up a bit more than where you're at right now. Right now, it's just like all the space floats around. There's a lot of work that we can do to level this up. But right now, it all comes back to we don't have an intro. Um, your intro is here. We're jumping into your tasks before we really need to. That design is struggling, and then we're missing a what I learned here, and that's on the design reads presentation. So a little work. I shouldn't say a little work. A significant amount of work ahead of us here, but the good news here is that you already have material to work with. This isn't like a situation where you're starting from scratch and you haven't written a case study. Once you have a case study in hand, it's pretty easy to begin leveling it up. But just know that we've got a lift to do there. Additionally, you submitted the Pandora home screen redesign, and you've kind of gone through a bit of this process already. So you've got people utilize music for all sorts of different things in their lives. Listening to music should not induce panic. To skip a song that is inappropriate for little ears or professional environments. Okay, I'm sorry. To skip to a song that is appropriate. I would almost just leave it like listening to music should not induce panic. To skip an inappropriate song, to skip a song that is inappropriate for little ears or professional environments. So rather than saying, oh, I need to skip to an appropriate song, the real thing is you need to skip the inappropriate song. How could Pandora's home screen experience be improved to take into account all types of listeners? So the problem, you walk through it, the solution, your insights, and then your role. Same thing here. Process, discovery and research. As I already had an idea to work on, I conducted preliminary research in order to evaluate the desirability of the proposed feature changes. Going through the user survey data, I could determine the usefulness of the features and establish priorities and user stories for the implementation. So the good news here is that you've kind of set up an intro here. I personally don't necessarily like. I would push back on this idea that just by doing the survey, you've got the data. Chelsea will tell you firsthand. Like I kind of put my elbow into user surveys as being pretty lackluster, and what I really want to do is I want to use those user surveys to perform interviews, like find me people I can talk to so that I can perform the interviews so that I do not have to rely on the user surveys. That said, this project's already done, so I'm telling you that for future consideration. But the good news here is you've got that set up. Again, you've got a setup for this as well. I feel much better about coming into this project now than I did where we were yesterday. You also added insights. I learned a lot about misconceptions during this project. Many of my user tests gave me information that I didn't expect. I did some testing on a 70 plus year old. I'm not sure. Elderly? Nah. And there was a lot of things that were taken for granted: profile, thumbprint, radio, lyrics, to name a few. Some of these fantastic features baked into the app are not fully utilized. The app doesn't give feedback or info about how to use the features, and the user is left to click around. Different generations have different preconceptions and ways they enter into a partnership with an app. Elder generations might not feel comfortable learning while clicking around, while younger generations click to learn. So there's a you're writing about your observations with different generations, and I don't necessarily think we've really hit it. You've got the right observation. It's a legitimate one. It's something that I think a lot of people are like. This is an issue that I think a lot of companies are going to be looking for assistance on, especially as America gets older. This is kind of like the thing that Japan's been going through. Um, but it we've got to tweak this, okay? But it's much closer. It's much closer. Um, so I'm going to come back to this. I'm having trouble thinking about how we should enhance it. But the good news is, yesterday we didn't have it. Today we have it. Now we just need to tune it, and tuning. Unfortunately, adding it is the easy part. Tuning it is significantly harder because now we're snipping out this word or that word. Um, uh, generational uh, I think one thing you want to say is the Pandora redesign project taught me a lot about generational misconceptions. Many of my user tests, it's like that's thing. Many of my user tests gave me information that I didn't expect. I think that kind of slows it down. Um, in in testing the product with people over the age of 70, I learned that there are a lot of things that we take for granted. In a lot of things are taking, a lot of aspects of the application are taken for granted. For instance, profile, thumbprint radio, lyrics are all, and you've got to find a way to tighten that, to like explain that. But I do think that there's a way that, just as we've covered, there's a couple of sentences at the beginning of this that can allow you to jump right into it. Because when you say I did some testing on a 70 plus year old, that makes it sound like I sat down with my grandpa and we looked at Pandora, and I need it to feel broader than that. Okay, so let's look at this. This is well on its way though compared to where we were yesterday. I feel much better about it. So we are going to push on from here. We've got Luigi, and Luigi, if you were here yesterday with us, Luigi's working on improving his portfolio, and he has a project that he's been working on. He's got a COVID-19 project, and this COVID-19 project is over here, the AI Simulator for Good. And Luigi, I got to be honest with you, I'm already more excited about this solution than yesterday's effort. You've taken where we started, where you went, and where you're at now, and this is kind of like the middle ground between where you and I were talking last week and where you were yesterday. And I think this is I haven't clicked through yet, but I'm excited. Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect to see here. So this is a refugee camp, and it's very very desert, tan, but you've put the bars over the top of it, which says to me data. Like I don't look at any I immediately see like bar chart here, which has its merits. I really do think that this is heading in the right direction. I see data. I can't make out camp. I see people. Okay, and then as I look at it closer, I see tents, and it takes me a minute, but it definitely gets me to. I'm not seeing this as like Beverly Hills. Okay. I can get there very fast. Like I might think army barracks, But overall, like quick housing is what this is, and that is in fact a refugee camp. So, and you explain that pretty quickly. Web tool, local authorities and model potential COVID outbreaks inside of refugee camps. Like that intro, and Charlie, this is what I'm talking about. When you have an intro, it cleans up what I'm going to see very quickly. So I like it. I full speed ahead, Luigi. This is the presentation that I would stick with. I would keep this one. And also yesterday in my note to Luigi, I said, listen, I don't think you've hit the mark, but I don't think I would just leave it and move on to the next thing. And Luigi did not let go, even though I was willing to like say, hey, if you like it, I didn't really care for it, but I don't, it's your portfolio. It's not my portfolio, right? I try to guide you, but when you get to a spot, it's like, this is yours, not mine. I can't just sit here and go, well, do it my way, because that's not good for you. That's not good for me. I need you to believe in your skills and your portfolio, which is why I'm never going to just like elbow in the back, do it this way, because that's not, then it's my portfolio. What's the point? So good job, Luigi. I'm very, very excited about this direction. Let's see here. Let's go over, and if I can, hey, there I am. Hi. There's like 7 of me. Oh, here it is. Okay. Well, let's hop over here to this fun bit. So this is looking at a design test, and I'm not going to because I can't really get into how to properly prepare by looking at the assets that they've sent across, because I can't access them. But what I can look at is I can study the customer pain points, and we can kind of begin to brainstorm some thoughts around these customer pain points. So let's talk about this. This is what the customer this is what the customer said. I don't always know where I stand in the process. If I want to check, I either have to go digging in through my inbox, or I have to call one of the agents. That tells me that whatever the platform is that they're using is lacking feedback about the process. Okay? So there has to be some sort of status that I immediately try to add to the platform. Like whenever they sign in, it should tell them you've been approved, your process is still in review, your application has been declined, like whatever that is. And some, if they're iffy about declined, maybe it's, we'd like to talk with you further through the application process. Please call. Okay, so it's like there's ways to handle that, but there has to be feedback in the platform, and it's pretty clear if the customer is identifying this as a pain point by verbalizing it, then it in fact is a pain point. I wish everyone was up to speed there. It's annoying to have to wait for the person on the phone who's supposed to be my expert to go talk to a bunch of other people to figure out what's going on with my application. Okay. Again, the platform is not showing the status to either the customer or the agent that's helping the customer. So again, on both sides of this coin, it's all about, are we signaling where the person is in the process, or is it buried and, I have to go talk to my manager? It sounds like it's buried and I have to go talk to my manager, because until something's green, we have no idea of where it's at. And even if it's green, I might not know where it's at. So feedback is, there's two that tell me that the system's not giving enough feedback. If I say I don't want to get text messages, then don't send me text messages. It's simple. Okay, so this sounds like the user has preferences that are not being followed. I couldn't tell you if this is the system is automatically sending out text messages that it shouldn't send out, or if this is the agent sending text messages to the person and the person has it saved in their settings somewhere that says, I have opted out of text messages, email me only, or whatever their preferred method of communication is. That is not being surfaced. Again, information buried in the platform not being surfaced so that it is actionable for the agent or the customer. Honestly, I'm getting so many emails and texts, it's hard to keep track of which policy they're for, life, new home quote. So it sounds to me like there may be a design issue with the emails that are going out because they are not being properly identified for what oh, your new quote is in or whatever. Is that life? Is it home? Is it car? Um, so some messaging. This is where the experience seems to be struggling for this particular user. Um, it's really important to go in because as we scroll back, it says you'll get to interview 2 ops agents from life and homeowners, and we talk about the collaboration and the wheel and whatever. It's important to go into this interview with the agents with questions, and those questions are going to be built off of these pain points. Okay. Yes, you will obviously look at their platform and generate questions off of that as well, but you cannot go into the discussion with the agents cold. You've got to do your prep work because if you go into it cold, you're going to limit what you can actually come up with at the whiteboard. So you're going to have very strategic questions to ask. This would be way different in a non time boxed, limited scope of time. That's like you've got an hour to do this, and they're wanting to get a general sense. So for you, I would encourage you to approach this with an open mind about what you're going to be able to show after an hour. Okay, you're not going to be able to show a finished product, but you probably could show how the product could be enhanced to address these pain points while also focusing on how you can improve the lives of the agents that are using the platform. Okay. Um, Finally, let's take a look at. Hey, that's my res. Looks here in 2014. She's tech pro at Google, working as a contractor over a year in Austin, and was working as a content producer. I didn't know you were in Denver helping Gannett with talent development. You hold out on me here. All right, so this is fine. This is a resume that shrieks accountant. It does not come across to me as, oh hey, you're a designer, you are involved in design. Um, Part of it is just because of the form factor that it's being used. The text is going all the way across. Um, we want to lighten the load here a bit. We want to make this more legible, easier to read, easier on the eyes. Um, we also want to lighten up on the line work. There's no reason for this box going around the edge of this. It just crowds the typography over here. Um, there's no real alignment here either. It's just kind of like this text is just kind of pushed over here so that it kind of lines up with that information down there. Um, in terms of the order it goes 2019 to present, 2016 to 2018, 2015 to 2016. You know, it moves in a logical order that I would expect. Your skills are down here, and that's all fine and good. Um, what we want to do is um, we want to focus in on giving this a new format first. You will need a plain resume. That's very important for applicant tracking systems. But you'll also need a resume that steps up a notch, and that's one of the reasons why I brought out mine. Um, so this resume, it's a 2 column resume. It's black and white. There are 2 things about it that I would not do if I had to redo this. And this was back when I was still, you can see I still worked at the other place, because I currently that's not accurate. So this is like 2018. Um, so when we look at this, I would not have this line, nor would I have this logo up here, because that's going to make the applicant tracking system poop itself. It's just like, I don't know what those things are. And then it freaks out. You want to have, everything else about it works okay. In that, title, where you worked, year, what you did. I tend to go away from the bulleted approach. I make mine a lot more just like readable paragraph. And the big reason I do this is in an applicant tracking system, it's going to look for keywords. Okay, it's just going to pick up keywords and it's going to say this person's a 73% match. And it doesn't matter if you've put it in bulleted form or if you put it in a paragraph. It's just looking for keywords. So like when I talk about, I did mobile product management and start to finish, RFP creation, internal pitches, SWOT analysis, defining product scope, overall product design, wireframes to finish, branding, project management, usability testing, marketing, field testing, product launch, defining V2 requirements, update management, all of that. That's going to trigger just a slew of keywords that the applicant tracking system is going to pick up on. So provided that you've got some of that, and I can see some of that here, documentation, documentation's a big one, cross-functional teams, drafts, copy edits, publish content, post-production editing skills, journalistic knowledge, presentation, communicate. Um, uh, like there's lots of things in here that could trigger the applicant tracking system to rate you higher. We also, you had sent across the job posting that that this was in regard to. You want to look at that job posting and look at what they specifically are mentioning and sprinkle that into your resume. This I have gotten this question before. So do I have to make my resume match every job posting? And the answer is, well, if you want the best possible shot, yes. But there is that does get into the ground of diminishing returns. At some point, it's just like, do I have to edit and update this again? And the answer is, well, do you want the gig? So I leave that to you. Know that I am looking for this to, at minimum, I'm looking for this to, take on a slightly different format. I do think that, looking at this, you've already done the hard work of like, okay, what needs to be in here? Well, Google, Tenga, Gannett, WSIL, those are all things that are specific to professional work. It's not like you've got, you were the salad artist at, whatever restaurant you worked at in your undergrad life, nor do you have anything in here that kind of is a, I paint on the weekends thing. although there's nothing wrong with that. If you have those skills, to have them underneath like skills. For me, I think that I instead of skills, I talk about strengths. And I do this mainly because on in LinkedIn you get a lot of that breadth of, I know this, I know that, I know the other thing, and after a while you just kind of run out of space. Education is really low down on the list for me, as I really believe it should be for you at this point. Your experience is way more important than the fact that uh, you got a degree in 2014. You've learned it, the world has flipped over twice since 2014. I don't even think we had paved roads in '98 when I graduated. Um, just the kind of like the span of time and how things have changed. So for me and for you, I'd move that education part to the bottom. And Google, it's famous that Google doesn't even care if you have a degree. Um, so like let's reorder this. I would move your skills above your degree because that tells me where you're at now. I would put this in a couple of columns, um, and then once you've done that, I begin editing this down to tighten it up, and and then begin to to edit it. But otherwise, I think that it's in need of a format update. You're not an accountant; you're a designer, and as a designer, I expect your resume to look a little better. That's one of the things. When I see a design resume come across like this, it's just like nope, because I'm looking for you to bring a certain level of organization to the mix, and right now it's you're not representing that. Okay, and I understand it's early days for you, Chelsea. You just got in here, so for me to look at this and go, oh, haha, like I'm not doing that at all. I think we'll get there. Okay. So let's see here. We've talked to Luigi, Charlie, Chelsea, Melanie. Yeah. Hey, guess what, folks? We are done, and I certainly appreciate you folks riding along with me through this today. It's always fun to look at new projects and kind of see where everybody's going. If you have questions, jump into the Discord channel. If you're watching this and you have not signed up to be part of our Discord community, hit the link that's attached to this video. It's right in the description below. And otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chris Courtney. This is New Pragmatic's Feedback Loop, and I will chat with all of you. I'll chat with many of you in a few hours. I see you, Rebecca, Luigi, Eve, maybe, Melanie, like this, Katie. Got lots of meetings today. I'll see many of you later today, but if I don't see you today, I hope to see you right back here again tomorrow morning. Take care.